All right. I see we have 6 people today. I know 1 or 2 might be out today. But welcome to day 2, technically, of FOP. Today we're going to continue with HTML and hopefully get into a little bit of JavaScript today. I'm sorry, not HTML, CSS. And then if we have time, we'll get into JavaScript and start, getting some things working on our browser. See how things work together and actually make things move. Does anyone want to talk about anything from yesterday that we covered? Any questions that they may have had before we begin class? Nobody? Everyone's good? Awesome. Let's go ahead. Let me go ahead and share my screen and we can start. All right, can everybody see the lesson 3 slides? A nod? Yeah. Okay. All right, so yesterday we kind of left off talking about the font. We went through that headache of adding a Google font into our HTML head. And I think that's as far as we got before we cut it off. We're going to start through the student practice, colors.html. Let's open up the VS Code. So if we're looking at colors HTML, was this how we ended? I don't remember if there was something else that we were doing.
Yeah, that's where we ended. You did, I think, the first 3, and then you told us to do that last one, the footer,
Right.
after we got off.
Yeah. So before we go, are you guys sure everyone's good here so far of how we implemented the CSS into our HTML and we're able to grab the different selectors and change the H1s and sections and H2s and whatnot. Everyone good there so far, right? All right, so we finished the colors. Moving on. All right, so first thing for today is gonna be selecting by relationship. So far up to this point, we kind of just did a very general, broad scope of like all H1s or all articles and whatnot. But we didn't have, we didn't discuss yet if we have any kind of nested tags, right? So we see here, we have 2 ways of doing it. The top one is the top level tag is a section with a nested paragraph, and the bottom one has an article with the nested paragraph within it, right? So the section has has 1 child, and the article has another child. And we see 2 different ways of grabbing it. Who can tell me what is the difference between these just by looking at them? How do you think this will work? So the top one, right? You call upon the top level, which is a section, and then we have a caret pointing to the paragraph. Now the caret is used whenever you're trying to grab the tag directly underneath it, right? So it's direct child. So you're gonna hear that term a lot during the FOP, talking about the parent or the child or parent class, child class. It's like different stuff like that. Essentially, in this case, the section is a parent and its child is the paragraph tag, right? And we know that one because on the left side we can see it directly underneath it, but the caret is used when you want to specify the next level down directly underneath a specific tag. All right, so this will be specifically if P is right underneath section, right? How do you think the one below would work? The one below, we see the P, it's nested within article, and then article is nested within section.
Yeah, so how come there's not section caret A caret P?
Right. So you could, right? Essentially, if you were to use a caret in this situation, you would grab specifically that one paragraph that's nested after article, right? So you're specifying the direct path of which paragraph you want to grab. On the bottom one, it doesn't have that. It's not specifying directly, the child that comes right after section or right after article. It's just section, and then we have P here. So the difference between these is that if you were to do it in the manner that the bottom one is doing, you would grab pretty much every paragraph inside the section, right? So even if it's not nested within article, it's nested within like a different div, it would grab uh every P, right? Whereas the top one, we're specifying the paragraph directly underneath section, right? It has like a direct path, whereas the one below it does not, right? It would grab every other paragraph as well, right? Everyone with me so far on that, on the difference between these two? So neither one is really right or wrong. It's just your intention, right, of what you're trying to accomplish. Selecting by relationship continued. So with what you saw earlier, what do you think this will do? Which one would this change?
I'm guessing it only
Hello?
changed hello you.
Yeah, Cody, correct. Gold star. It would only change hello you. Think of it like a nested version of it as well, like nested for loops kind of. You are going into the P, the first one, the top level. Well, it's not really a top level, they're on the same level, but it would grab the first P and then it would grab the next one afterwards, and it would only choose that one, right? It's only grabbing, can you guys see my mouse? This one specifically. So it will only change the hello you and not the hello world. Good stuff, Cody. Relationships.html. Let's check it out. I'm not trying to install y'all's intelligence, but if you guys don't know how to do this, you can use the top right icon right here, split editor, and you can split different files so you can see them simultaneously. I only say that because I've had people in the past not know about it, but just in case you weren't aware. All right. So do you guys want to crack at it, or would you like for me to walk through it and you guys code along? What was that?
We can just go along, I think. Or
I'm
I would
sorry.
like to just go along.
Code along? Okay. All right. Well, since you're the one that spoke up, we'll code along. So we have our relationships .html here. We see that our style.css is linked. So very first one is going to be make the H1 font purple. So we'll take it line by line. We'll go to H1 specifically. And then how do we change the color on this? For the H1, we do color and it's purple. Let me open up on live server. There we go. So color, purple. We see here our H1 actually changed. Then we're gonna move on. Next one's gonna be make all my H2's font yellows. So we see we're gonna change it. It's gonna change everything. We just grab the top level one, but that's fine. We're gonna do H2, and then color, and then yellow. What if we do? Is there a font color? There's not. I want to try it out anyways. I changed everything underneath. Jesus Christ, what am I doing? All right, so that takes care of number 2. Number 3, you change your mind and you only want world and 0 to be yellow now. Right, so we have world and zebra, my bad. World and zebra. So we have a bunch of H2s, and just by specifying the H2, we saw they changed everything else within our HTML file that holds an H2 tag. But now we only want the world and zebra. Who can walk me through this one?
So we're gonna want to follow the cascading rule. So we can leave the previous line of H2 there
Correct.
and then just declare a new selector. But we want to select the second child of section. Sorry, what does this say? Changed your mind?
Yeah, we only want world and zebra to be yellow. So we see here the H2s are nested within section. So yeah, so we're probably gonna want to start at section. And then afterwards we would specify the H2 within it, right? Do we want to do H2 or should we do caret H2?
Caret,
H2.
Caret
because
H2?
that's saying the child of section, the
Yeah. What
or
color
the
do we want it?
children.
Color yellow. We can't really see the effects right now because everything else is still yellow. But in theory, right, following the cascading style sheet rule, if we were
You can just remove the arrow and it will select word zebra, but it also select unicorn. So if you remove the arrow, the greater than symbol, it'll
caret,
select
yeah.
world and zebra. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it is,
I think
right, but we already changed it before on yellow. It's gonna do the same thing too. You
oh
know,
yeah, everything is yellow.
yeah, everything is yellow. But because H2 is a direct child of section, we could
Oh,
specify.
so wouldn't you just delete line 5 to 7 since nothing you do is gonna change
Or couldn't you
anything?
just make line 5 red? I mean, I'm interested in, like, if you made line or 6, if you made line 6 red.
No, it's still gonna, because of the cascade, it's still gonna. Oh, I guess, yeah, you can see.
I'm just
You could, if we want to see it, we could do that.
okay.
We see that it works, right? But we're gonna change it later on down the line anyways due to the cascade. But yeah, so it's fine either or. We could keep it that way, or we could just delete it this all together because we changed our mind to begin with. So we can just go ahead and do that, right? Because we initially wanted all H2s font yellow, but then we're like, you know what? I don't want all H2s. I just want world and zero. So we can just get rid of that H2 and specify the section H2. So no biggie. Next one's gonna be the number 4, right? So make unicorn and duck font red. So we see unicorn is within article, and the article is within section. But then the duck over here isn't within the section; it's just within an article. So what do y'all think?
I would still specify the children, H2, the H2 children of article, because the instructions aren't saying, make the article themselves red or to orange.
Mhm.
You specifically want the H2 children of article to be that color.
Section, and that section needs to have an article. And then we want the H2. You want to have it red. So we got that one there. But what about duck? We maybe delete section? Yeah. Right, because we're saying, hey, grab all the article tags that specifically have a child of H2 and turn them red. We could specifically specify this manner as well, and then this one if you wanted to. It's all about your intent.
I'm actually unable to follow along because for some reason the repo that I'm cloning it seems to be like out of date. So I don't actually have all these comments and whatnot inside of colors.html.
Do a git pull.
It says already up to date.
Okay.
I also pasted a
Oh,
link in
I'm
the
in the
chat like
okay.
you
I'm
requested.
stupid. Never mind. I'm stupid. Just let's just continue. I was in
Okay.
the wrong file.
It's okay. Happens to the best of us. So we got unicorn and duck font red. Then we change our mind again. All right. We don't know what we were doing. It's been a long day. The kids been screaming all day, so we changed our mind. Now we want unicorn font orange. Well, before we got every article with H2, but now we want unicorn to be orange. So here we can probably specify section, and then the article that comes after section, and then the H2, and say color orange. And there we go. Now we have orange unicorn. The H2 for duck is still red because that one only had an article. It didn't have a section that was nested within. So pretty straightforward. This only affected the orange H2 in here. Everyone still with me? Now, why does unicorn change? Oh, I already answered it for you guys. So why does unicorn change from red to orange with the last rule? Well, because the cascading style sheets. Initially, the first style that we added, we changed both of these to red. And then although before we declared it to be red, here we specify that the one underneath section would be orange. So this one would take precedence over the initial style that we declared for H2 underneath article, right? Due to the rule applied from cascading style sheets. All right. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple of how you would use of how the relationships work. Now, realistically, you probably won't really ever have to do this, right? This is mainly just a way to show you how things take precedence over each other, how the cascading style sheet rule works, and how you can use the relationships to, specify a specific tag that you're looking for, and the relationship between, the parent and the child. Realistically, you're never really going to have to do this. A lot of times you're going to be changing the styles of your tags by either class or IDs, changing an entire H1 tag or H2 tag or entire section. You typically won't really do that. I mean, you can, but a lot of times when you're styling your stuff, you have so much stuff going on, different colors, different sizes, different fonts, different size, shapes. You have it on different parts of your pages. But it's just a small little example of how you can manipulate all the other tags, right? Cool. Very low impact, nothing too crazy. Specificity, right? So IDs and classes are a way of selecting distinct elements so you can style them. So we saw an example of that earlier in the week when we, gave a class name to something. But there's a purpose behind classes and IDs. So let's say you have all these different paragraphs and whatnot, but there's a specific section that you want to, style a certain type of way, right? Well, IDs and classes give you the ability to do so, right? And both of them have different ways that are written in our CSS. For the ID, it's going to be followed by the hashtag. And for a class, it's going to be a simple dot behind it, right? The IDs and classes are two different things, right? IDs classes, inline styling all holds different weights. And depending on the purpose of whatever your tag is or the content that you're adding, a type of specificity will determine which one you want to use. Typically, you want to refrain as much as possible from using inline styling. You typically want to stick to as low of a specificity as possible, and then slowly work your way up as needed. And you'll see why. The specificity in the cascade, right? So the tags, classes, and IDs, as well as inline stylings, have almost like a point system, right? Of what takes precedence, right? The lowest point system is by tags. For example, if at the very top of my styling sheet, the first style I added is for a tag, that style will have 1 point of specificity. And if I were to add a class to a specific tag, right? Let's say I change the color of all my H3 tags, right? Using the H3 tag like we just been doing recently. But there is one specific H3 tag that I wanted to change to make it different from everything else. I would add a class. Now that specific tag has now gone up 10 points of specificity, right? So therefore, it now takes precedence over the tags. So to change that, I will require up to 10 points of specificity to override it, right? So if I wanted to override whatever style that specific H3 tag has, the one that I gave a class to, the next thing in line would be the IDs, where IDs have 100 points of specificity, right? And then last but not least, your inline styles, which have up to 1,000 points of specificity, which therefore make it almost impossible to override that style, right? It will require a lot of points in specificity, right? So, which is why you want to avoid using as much as possible, inline styling. Not only does it look sloppy in your code, but if later on down the line you're trying to change the color on something and you're using inline style and you're wondering why it's not changing, it's because the inline style has much higher levels of specificity than the class or the ID tag you're trying to use on it to override it. Does that make sense? Yes? Awesome. Remember, specificity matters as you write your CSS file. Elements further down your file will override previous elements if they are greater than or equal to in specificity. Now, I can see how this might be a little confusing at first and trying to, just hear the term specificity, all these points and whatnot. Just know, right, that you want to use inline styling, as sparingly as possible. IDs are typically for very unique items in your HTML and CSS. You don't always have to use IDs unless you just with this. For example, let's you say all these H3 tags all have a certain class, but only this specific button is supposed to look a certain way. Well, then you will use an ID on it, right? Because this one is going to be a very unique in comparison to the rest of the buttons. This button is supposed to be red, right? Like the exit button on a web page or whatever, right? Or however you want to describe it, whatever kind of scenario. Like the red button, the do not push button, that was very unique. So that's the only one that will be red. So that one you could put an ID to change its color, whereas every other button should just be blue or green, right? That's as best example as I can give. Everyone with me? Awesome. Specificity.html. Let's check it out. This is gonna be your first student example for today, or student work. So I want you guys to open up the specificity.html, and I want you guys to practice and go through with it, right? So going back to, as mentioned in the slides, you're gonna want to use the different syntax for IDs and classes. One thing you're gonna see here on this example is on line 17, 18, and even line 23, you have a long class, and you're probably gonna be tempted to copy and paste this entire class, or even this one, 23, where it says Harry Potter, Triwizard Champ, and Badger. You're gonna try to copy and paste that and then put a period behind it as if that's the entire class name. It is not. These are 3 different classes, right? So if you were to try to write this in CSS, it will look something very similar to this, right? So if you want a Harry Potter, now let's do Africa 4 legs. You would have to do dot Africa dot 4 legs, right? Color red. Does that make sense? So I want to make sure I talk about that because it's a little confusing at first. But besides that, go ahead, take
Sorry,
the
was that? I guess I'm
What's
just a
up?
little confused on like ID versus task
tag.
versus tag versus class.
So a tag
Okay.
is like H1, right?
Okay, so what we did. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, P's. These are the tags, right? Open and
Okay.
close tags. Remember the HTML, right?
Mhm.
IDs are written exactly like this. ID equals and then open and close parentheses and then whatever you want your ID to be. Whenever you're calling for an ID in CSS, it's going to be with your hashtag. Think of it as like IDs are typically numbers in in real world, like ID numbers, right? And then a hashtag. That's how I remember using the hashtags. For classes, you're gonna require a dot. So as mentioned before, dot Africa, dot are ducks, dinosaurs. That's the how you would write it in here, right? So dot are ducks, dinosaurs, maybe, right? That's how you would write your class. So take the next 10 minutes, right? And then we will work on it together. All right, gents. Who wants to demonstrate the assignment? Talk us through it. All right, let's get it, Sam. Share your screen, please.
So demonstrating some of this. So number one, so me and my partner here, Brandon, we kind of got a little bit like it was kind of questionable what we need to do for these last 2, but I think we got it. But so the first one was to make only Rhino and Zebra Blue. So using this the highest level ID of Rhino, so that pulls from this ID and also this ID Zebra. We made both of it blue, which turned this and this into blue. And the reason why we didn't use class, because if you use class, there's also like for separate, like it'll all just class it into one and it'll turn both of them blues, but we wanted these individual ones. Next, just the Hufflepuff, just the hashtag best house, and we put that class here from this ID and then turn that into gold. And then for duck, the highest specificity possible was likes to quack. So I put period likes to quack and I just put open bracket or brackets after that and then hashtag Rhino because that's the highest class for this ID for this open bracket. So those are the four things.
Okay, yeah. The highest level of specificity, you're on the money. You're just supposed to, grab the. You could have grabbed every single one of them if you wanted to, as I mentioned to you guys before, or you could do it like you did. But yeah, it's a pretty simple assignment.
We were a little confused because we thought we were supposed to like add an inline style.
Yeah.
For those 2, but that didn't make sense because you specifically said, don't do this. So
No, you're not wrong. I was confused too when I was reviewing the curriculum. I was like, what in the heck? What lesson is this? I do want to make some corrections on this. Lesson 3. Yeah. It is a little confusing at first. Specificity.
So, question
Yes.
for number 2, make Hufflepuff gold. You could technically use any one of those, right? Like I just did dot Harry Potter, and it worked to grab the Hufflepuff. But so what's the point of having an ID and then 3 different classes for that one line?
Specificity.
Is it just to make it extra specific?
That's 10, 20, 30 points.
Well, think about like also when you are when you're doing like an app or something, right? And like let's say you have a class called Wiggle, and anytime you hover over something that has the class Wiggle, you want it to do a little dance, right? Like the text will like wobble back and forth. But one of those texts, you want them to also grow. So you would have the class grow on there as well. So it'll grow and wiggle at the same time, but you don't want
Okay,
everything that wiggles to grow.
that makes sense. Okay.
Awesome. Any other questions? Sweet. We're going to continue trekking along. We're almost done with CSS, which is pretty exciting. I'm sure you guys want to get into the other stuff. Share screen. Okay. So we covered specificity. Moving on, the box model. All right. So as you guys may have noticed already from using the inspect tool on your browser, and actually let's do it as we talk. That's for later. Using the inspect tool, you're able to press this up. You know, this arrow right here is like a dotted box with a diagonal arrow. If you press this, you're able to hover over your web page, and it will show you your, your different your content, right? Your HTML tags and whatnot. And as we discussed before, these are all boxes, right? And everything that you're going to see is pretty much made of just boxes, right? The box model. Everything on a web page is a box, right? And here you're gonna see a small little description or diagram of what each item in here really is. And probably the most confusing one that people have trouble with is the margin and the padding. And hopefully this diagram in the next one kind of clears it out. First and foremost, the actual contents of your box within it, right? That's going to be your height and your width, right? The main div itself is like its height and its width, right? Outside of it, it's going to be the padding, right? You can specify padding top, bottom, right, left, or you can just put padding and it would adjust every single side. Outside of the padding is where the border lies. So if you ever wanted to move the border farther away from the contents of your div, then you would want to increase the padding, right? So that's what's between the contents of your div and your border. So remember that. And then we see here the border left, top, right, bottom, respectively as well. Increasing. You can increase the size, the thickness, the type of border you have, and then you can also specify which side specifically or just border in general. And then the space after the border is going to be your margins, right? And margins is honestly just really where your div lies within your web page, right? It only pushes a box around the page itself. So if you were trying to shift you try to put some space between your border and the inside of your div, and you try to use the margin, it's not really gonna move anything within it. It's gonna move the whole thing to the right. So keep that in mind. Margin is the exterior outside of the border. Then it's border padding within the border itself and the content of your div and then the div. Cool. You can always just Google a diagram like this if you guys forget. Yeah. CSS student practice box model.html. So for this one, I haven't done this one actually. Let me check it out. Box model XML. Oh, I did do it. Open up your box model HTML, and I'm gonna give you guys 10 minutes. Actually, time is 6:19. We're gonna go on a 10-minute break. When we come back, you guys will be in your breakout rooms, and you'll take 10 minutes to go through this assignment, and practice with the boxes. Right? It's pretty straightforward. If you guys look at the style.css, increasing the different heights, adding padding and whatnot. But just enough so you're able to visualize the box itself. So when you guys are out there looking at different websites, you can actually start seeing like where these boxes are at and how it's laid out, right? At some point, whenever you get to a website, you'll start judging it by how it looks. I promise you. So we're gonna use this assignment to kind of get used to being able to see everything in boxes because, as mentioned before, everything on your webpage is essentially a div inside a div inside a div, right? So 10-minute break, return at 6:30, and then we'll go into breakout rooms. All right, guys, pretty straightforward. Easy assignment. Do I need to go over it, or do we think we can move on?
Yeah, could we actually discuss spans quickly, like their purpose? Because I don't really I've seen people do really cool things with span as far as styling, but there is a little bit of confusion with what their purpose is.
They're usually for like small parts of content, like one-liners. Not really used commonly, but they're not anything crazy. If that makes sense. They're for like one-line sentences, usually like a small introduction, nothing crazy. I personally don't use them often at all. Maybe like once, but you won't really be exposed to them too much, so I wouldn't stress it. Is that good?
Yep.
Yeah. Nothing to really, bang your head about it. It's nothing crazy. It was just put in the curriculum to kind of show you that it exists, but you won't really have to use it much ever. So nothing crazy. Besides that, nothing. No one wants to walk through it. We're good. I'm trying to get to the JavaScript stuff, honestly.
Yeah, just a quick question on the very last one for the section. The 200
Yeah.
pixels tall, was it just size 200 pixels? Is that what that was looking for?
Let's see the style. Tall is height, my man.
Okay, height.
To be honest, you could on line 1, line 3 for like H1 30 pixels, H2 25 pixels, like you could have been height too. No big issue here. It's made just to get you to start, experimenting with it. Whether you interpret it as tall or like size, it doesn't really matter as long as you made it move on your computer screen, right? It's just wording that Guillermo had used for the curriculum, but as long as you saw a change in your H1 and you saw it move and you went through the motions, then good on you. Cool.
Okay, and then this. Thanks. Yeah, and then the centered, was that just in the border? Or no, not border.
The center is going to be for the contents. You could use the
Content.
command text align. So if The rest of you guys use text line as well? You can do text line and then give it the center property, and you will
Text
see it.
align. Oh, copy that.
Yeah,
Okay.
correct.
Thank you.
Good there.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. I can even share how mine looked if you guys want. Yeah, nothing too crazy. It just centered it within the div itself. But yeah, pretty straightforward. Cool. All right, moving forward. So here you see another demonstration of the model, nothing too crazy. Everything is a box, right? So what we saw the demonstration through here using the dev tools. Let's actually check today's BBC website, see what it looks like. And it looks different than it did a year ago. But you know, we can kind of start looking at it and we can see, you know, this is a box itself, probably right here, one box. Here's another box. This right here is probably a whole section in itself. Right. So I could probably like predict maybe this whole thing right here being its own box centered on the web page itself. Within here, we have 3 boxes, right? One box here, more boxes. They're all boxes, right? Same thing with the nav bar. The whole nav bar itself is probably a long div spread out from left to right on the width of the page itself. Same thing with the top header. This is probably one div with the width being 100% of your view width. All boxes. All right. Let's actually check it out on the Chrome tools. See, one big box. Boom. Here's a box. Another box. A box within a box. A box. One big box. Other boxes that you can click on. Oh, look, I was right. It's a whole box. See? So this is the whole bottom part of it, and then this whole thing was a box in itself. And just by messing around with the divs, you can kind of start seeing how the layouts of the web pages are kind of looking like. Let's see how these are. I wonder if we can grab anything here. Okay. So this in itself is a div here. So it's one div. I wonder if we can grab the other one. It's a little difficult. But here's another div, right? So it's pretty much 2 big divs and there's one div. And then within this div, I'm sorry, give me a second. Someone's ringing my doorbell. Wait like a minute. I'm sorry for the interruption. I locked my Wi-Fi out. But yeah, so moving on. So yeah, I mentioned before, it's just a bunch of divs inside of divs with other divs, right? Moving on. I think I beat that horse to death already. Layout, CSS, grid, and flexbox. So back to, man, I'm out of breath, dude, running upstairs. Yo, no cardio really hurts. Whew. So before, the old way of laying out your boxes was with floats. I'm not even gonna pretend to act like I know what floats are. I never really used them. When I started picking up on CSS, most developers started using Flexbox, and floats became outdated. Maybe Len knows since he started on assembly, so he probably has more experience with it. But all I know is that before the common way of doing it was with floats. These days you will see things like CSS grid and also Flexbox. I don't use CSS grid, and the reason for it is because I went through the same program as you did. So they taught Flexbox, and that's what I enjoy. Flexbox, if you know Flexbox, you can pick up CSS grid pretty well. Flexbox is used more commonly throughout the immersive program, so we're going to talk about Flexbox. And just I encourage you to use Flexbox. There's pros and cons to both. I'm not too comment on the pros and cons because I use Flexbox. All I know is that there is pros and cons. If you go through Stack Overflow, some people really talk about the pros and cons and how much they really love CSS Grid. I use Flexbox. All right. But yeah. So there's not gonna be an assignment for this, but if you look at your lesson 3 README, we'll go there ourselves. We went over the colors, relationship specificity, and the box model. For those of you who would like to get more work on Flexbox, watch this video. What is really going to help you get good with Flexbox, from what I've been told, is this guide. I didn't use this guide. There's much other stuff out there you can use. I use something different. I use the trial and error method until I got a concussion by banging my head on my screen. But you have this way of learning. It's pretty much just a PDF itself, and it shows you the commands and then how it's going to orient it, right? So on your own time, you guys can use the resources provided to you on your README and get caught up on Flexbox. So the reason why HTML and CSS, well, specifically CSS, isn't such a heavy lecture is because it's not that important. It's not hard to pick up, as you guys already saw. They're very basic commands, very basic syntax. There's so many different ways of doing things that there's no time to have you go through every single way of doing it. But it's mainly to expose you to HTML, CSS, kind of dabble with it a little bit, feel comfortable enough, so whenever you enter the immersive program, you can actually, kind of get good with it. The immersive program you guys are going to is a full stack software engineering program, not a front end. So there's no point on making you guys CSS and HTML experts if you're not just going to do straight front end, if that makes sense. Enough for you guys to be able to build a full stack application from start to finish and know how it works, right? So from the very start, from zero to hero, think of it as being jack of all trades, but master at none. Once you guys start applying for job interviews and whatnot, you'll be applying for either full stack positions, front end, back end, and then once you find your niche, I don't know, English is my second language, you can specialize on whatever you specialize, whatever you enjoy. So, which is why we didn't go so hard on CSS. But feel free to go through the README and use whatever is provided for you here and dabble with Flexbox. If you can learn how to center a div, that's good on you. That's probably the hardest part about working with the front end. So yeah, cool. We're gonna continue on. That concludes lesson 3. Any questions before we move on? Cool. JavaScript. I will tell you right now, the JavaScript lesson kind of just jumps you in there with not much really explanation. So I plan to change that in the future, but because it's not changed yet, too bad. So let's get into it. We'll learn the hard way. We'll break up into teams, and then I'll work with you guys one-on-one to make sure we can bridge that gap. If you guys have any questions, but it's gonna be very kind of like, hey, here it is, do it. So adding JavaScript. A computer can only do what you tell it to do. Up to this point, we've worked with HTML, CSS, as shown in previous diagram before. It's the skeleton of your application, and then we added some skin to it, maybe added a couple eyelashes and some makeup. But besides that, we haven't made it move yet. And that's where JavaScript is going to come into play, right? So what is a program? A program is a set of instructions that you write to tell a computer what to do, right? Pretty straightforward. That's what you're going to be doing. JavaScript, you're going to add functionality to certain things on your application. Like whenever you press a button, it shouldn't just be, it shouldn't just not do anything. What should that button do? It should have some kind of function, right? What is programming is the task of writing those instructions in the language that the computer can understand. JavaScript is a high-level language. Unlike assembly, like lead, or machine languages that you struggle to read using binary or ones and zeros. It has English terminology, which makes it a lot easier for us to use. This is a book that I have not read myself, and neither has Guillermo. I don't know why he added it on the slide.
It's a good book.
Is it?
It's a good book.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
continue?
good book.
Yeah, he added on the slides, and then in previous lectures, when we co-taught the class, you talked about it and swore by it, and he said he hasn't read it. So I I don't know. He says that everyone swears by it. So check it out. Apparently, led us.
I have a copy of it. It's really good. It just talks about it like with electricity and light bulbs and ones and zeros, and it's kind of like it's entertaining. I thought it was entertaining, but that might just be the nerd in me. But it's a really well written book about like how the ones and zeros work and using really basic ideas like water and like light bulbs to make it drop.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. Unfortunately, I have a kid and don't have time. So, but if you guys can, by all means, check it out. I'm gonna give you guys some actual literature later on through the course that I have read. So, stay tuned to that. But yeah, he put it in here. I haven't read it, but he said it's really good. What makes up a web page? We discussed this before, right? HTML being your skeleton, CSS being the skin, the exterior, and CSS being its motor skills, right? The DOM. Who's heard this before?
I've heard of it. I have no idea what it is. Just heard people talk about it.
Yeah. So the document object model is a programming interface for web documents. It represents the page so the programs can change the document structure, style, and content. It is pretty much what I have been showing you with the inspect tool, right? The DOM is pretty much a tree of branches that shows you the structure of your web page, right? The browser collects this information and brings it to you. The DOM structures it for you and shows it to you, and in real time you can also see everything about it, right? So it's the document object model, right? Where let's check bbc.com, right? The model of the entire web page here, broken down in a huge tree of just different tags. It's pretty much just showing you what it's made of, right? It takes your web page. On the left, we have what the web page should look like thanks to CSS, but the actual tree structure of your web page is demonstrated here. And if you look at this tree, right, we have the window, right, and it goes down to the DOM, right, our document, which is it breaks it down into its own little components, and then it breaks it down into HTML, and then what is it, the head and the body, right? It's what the HTML has been built off of, title, meta. All of itself is a DOM, right? It's the model of from start to finish, from the window, the documentation, the actual HTML itself, and pretty much the structure. It's a very generic term, honestly, if you think about it. All right, JavaScript files, right? Linking your JavaScript file to your HTML. If you guys remember when we were talking about the CSS file, I kind of got ahead of myself and confused it with the JavaScript file. This is what I was talking about. All right, so before we were able to link our style sheet in this manner where we added the link tag onto the head. That is how you're going to do it with your JavaScript. Instead of link, you're going to use the script tag, right? The script, you're going to put the type of script it is. It's going to be a text /JavaScript, right? It's going to be a syntax. And then the source, right? Where is it grabbing it from? Well, it's going to be typically your app.js, right? That's, if you guys remember the separations of concerns, we have the HTML, the styling, right? And then our application for our JavaScript. So the source will be the JavaScript file that we create in our separation concerns. And then you're going to have the async before the type. As far as I'm tracking, the difference between using this method or using the method over here on the left, where you put the script tag at the very bottom of your body tag within it, not outside. We see here open and close tag. They have the script tag at the very bottom of everything else. Is that having it outside of it makes it async, which essentially updates in real time. Move forward. Referencing HTML elements with JavaScript. This is what I meant by it kind of just throws you into the deep end, right? So I'm actually gonna send a link in the group chat. Actually, I think it's on the README. If we go to lesson 4 of your repo and you go into the README, you have some resources you can use for JavaScript. This one right here, the bottom one, will take you to the some web documents for JavaScript stuff, and you can go to there and look for some things for using JavaScript with HTML, or I will give you the link that I like to use via the Zoom chat, and this is W3 Schools. There it is, W3 Schools, and it's a link that will take you to the JavaScript section with the HTML DOM. And here you can find a lot of the items that we're going to be covering. We're going to have some very basic commands. As mentioned before, this is essentially, to get your feet wet. So when you get to the immersive program, it's not the first time you're working with JavaScript and some of the JavaScript commands or linking it to your HTML. It's not a full walkthrough of how to do it, but we'll make some small little, plugins and stuff and connect things and make it work on your computer. Enough to get you an idea of how JavaScript wraps into your HTML web page, right? So here, who can explain to me what this might be doing? If you've never seen this before, you might be a little confused. But who wants to give it a try? Besides Brandon.
So basically what it's doing is, I'm just gonna read it left to right. So select the entire document, and then I'm going to search for a selector with the ID of turn red. Then I'm going to add an event listener to that selector of ID turn red with the event of click. Then I am going to execute the function turn red function. So then
Alright,
that
stop.
will. Okay.
Somebody else. Good job, Brandon. You're good, man, but you're too good. Not Lynn. Cody. How about the rest?
Sure. So just repeat what he said for the next 2 lines, except change the words. And then the last 3, it looks like that turn red function is what that query selector's last input is. So once you go through the document, you find that turn red ID, add the click, it'll call that turn red function, which change the style background color of the body to the color that's selected.
Yes.
And
Awesome.
it has red, blue, and purple.
Thanks, both of you guys. Yeah, good job. You actually guys did better than I expected. Other people struggle with that. I don't know why. But yeah, it's grabbing the DOM, right? The document. And then we have essentially a method, right, that JavaScript has when working with HTML called query selector. You're gonna see other ones. There's obviously different options there. You can even see it on the link that I sent you guys there. The different types of elements and whatnot. There's get element by ID, get element by I believe class type. There's different ways of grabbing stuff, but we are gonna do query selector, and it's gonna be used as well in the immersive program because unlike the get element by ID or class, this one isn't specific. You can grab all of them, right? So it just it does what both of those do anyway. So what's the point, right? So we're gonna use query selector, and then it takes in as kind of like a variable, right? The either the ID or the class. Here we have the IDs, and then you have another method, which is gonna be add an event listener. An event is kind of like an action that happens on your browser. So one of them being the clicking of a button. If you ever hovered over something and it changes color when you hover over it, that's an event. So I believe it's like mouse over. So there's different events like that that happens on your web page that you can actually listen for, right? Quote unquote listen for. And then whenever that happens, your browser will catch it, and it will allow you to do something after that happens, right? And that's what we're doing here. We're looking for the click, and then once we receive a click, then we want to, the second variable is taken in here, we take in a function. Well, we declare the function down below, and essentially we are grabbing something that we want to manipulate. In this situation, we're manipulating the entire body. We're grabbing the style of it and changing the background color, right? For those of you who might have this question, because I have questions like this, well, why does it do that? Like, how do you know that this is how you do stuff? That's just the syntax of working with JavaScript and HTML in the DOM, right? If you want to learn how these methods, what these methods are, or refine them, the documentation will tell you, right? Any questions? We're gonna see an example of it. If you guys open up your background colors.html, and then grab your background colors.html document, open with live server. Oh, I'll do this. I was messing around earlier. It should open up something like this, and when you click over turn red, it changes the entire body of your web page by color. Turn blue, same concept, right? Pretty cool, huh? This is the first time we're actually, getting stuff to work on our browser. So personally, this stuff is what I live for. So yeah, we'll get to kind of experiment and play with stuff and actually make things work. For those of you that played with Legos as a kid or just destroyed your toys and built new toys out of it, this is very stimulating mentally. All right, let's get back to it. So instructor example, background colors. We, and by we I mean you guys, are going to do the student practice, right? If you look at that same folder, you should have the color changer.png. It should look something like this. I want you guys to take the next, I feel like 15 minutes won't be enough. Let's take 15 minutes and play around with this. Actually, you guys think you guys can figure this out in 15 minutes and recreate this?
Nope.
Okay. I really want you guys to get this. And honestly, we're doing pretty good on time and schedule. So we're actually going to take the next until 7:45-ish. How does that sound? That way I can work with you guys one-on-one if needed to. Within that time, take a break. And go use the restroom if you have to, get some coffee, whatever you need to do. But I'll be bouncing around between all the rooms, and I can give any kind of help. Use the you pretty much already have built-in HTML and JavaScript, so kind of use the already built functions and whatnot, the built code, and kind of branch off from there. Try different things. Try to recreate the image that you see here, right? Where you click it and it changes every single time. Sound good? Who wants to demonstrate what they completed? All right, guys, like only one person can present at a time. Please chill out. Brandon, is he here? He's not here right now.
I mean, I can go, but my thing looks like ass. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't mind if 2 or 3 of you guys show. This is the first time you guys actually kind of get to go on your own and kind of build a little bit. So yeah, Sam, start us off. Go ahead.
Cool. Let me. Very bad too. Let me share this. All right, so I didn't get to format it, but I was getting there. So I made color changer. Hold on, let me get to the formatted, but it changes colors. Sorry for the very bright colors. I didn't know how to change that quite yet. But I didn't code the random yet because I didn't really get to it. But I was making everything into boxes. So the first thing I did was use all these IDs, made new IDs for the HTML right here. Let me try to put these in 2 things. To the HTML here, made these 3 or 4 new IDs. And then from that point on, I think the header was something else other than the color changer. I just wanted to make it look like similar to this bad boy. And then after that, I went into CSS. Actually, sorry, I'll go to JavaScript first. I copied the functions. Something I did notice, because I'm not like the absolute best with JavaScript yet, but this is blue if it doesn't have a function, if there's no function created for it. So as you can see down here, there's no function, so it's still blue. So that means this in the web page won't have any functionality. And then from this point on, I just copied and pasted pretty much all the functions right here. And then just from red, blue, purple, green, yellow, orange, and then double check the functionality for the web page, and it had all the functionality. And once I knew that was good to go, I went to CSS. Use the selectors, so use the IDs. For example, turn red, as you can see right here. Put that, turn blue, turn purple, green, yellow. Obviously, you didn't have one for random yet, and orange. And the main things is I started with the header, put Arial as the font family, 100% pixels, and then white, and then text align to center. And then just for the same thing for all these, I'm just going to go over one. List. So to get rid of the bullet point, I use list style type none. And don't worry, I didn't memorize any of this stuff. I like looked it all up. So font family, Arial, font size, this. I was gonna get into the padding and all that stuff and organizing, but obviously kind of ran out of time. And then border style solid, that finally got the solid border here. And then I just put the width as thick. You can put it into pixels, but I didn't have too much time to consolidate that, and then put the color as white. And then that's what it made. That's what it kind of turned into. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Thank you. I really appreciate for demonstrating. Anybody else out here wants to demonstrate? Maybe they did something a little bit different, or they got to finish and wanted to go a little bit, the extra mile. Anybody?
I did not finish, but mine's different.
Okay, let's see how different it is.
Oh, let me figure out. Let me share my screen. I do hate Zoom and Ubuntu. Let me tell you something. Sucks. Share. Bring this bad boy over here. So, yeah, it's interesting because I went with wanting to separate the boxes first. So, And the way I ended up doing that is I ended up looking up Flexbox because I don't know what led me there originally, but I went there and I was going down this rabbit hole of unsuccess when Roger came in and gave me some hot tips. So let me show you the documents. I don't know if you guys, God bless. I know it's being recorded, it's fine. All right. The JS was really just a copy and paste exercise, not a big deal. Same thing for the actual HTML. I just copy and pasted and then changed the words that I changed like purple to green. The real thing that Roger showed me when I was in there, I was going in there, is the .flex container is what you use to define it. And this, wait, where's the one that has the, oh yeah. So this one right here is the orange line that goes across. Man, I apologize, guys. Learning how to use Ubuntu in real time here. So this orange box going across here is the this first one. And then what Roger really helped me out with was the justify content spaced evenly, which gives them that nice, like, pretty look. And then when I was reading up on the Flexbox, really what it does when you use float and then you pull it up on a like an iPhone or something like that, or your tablet, it like all looks all wonky because it's based off of the size of a PC screen. And what Flexbox does is it makes it pretty so that when you change these things, that really is the golden thing about Flexbox. Anyways, and then
While you're on here, Len, do me a favor. After display, type in flex direction. Like make a line.
Right here?
You can actually, yes, you can change the direction of your Flexbox. Flex direction.
Oops.
Just so you guys can see that. Yep, and then you can put column or row, which is pretty cool. I believe right now it's a column. Is it a column?
In column right now?
I don't know, man.
Yep. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Don't
try
memorize
row.
stuff. I didn't save it the last time, so who knows? It might have been the other way. No, I think that might be row because it's a row.
Yeah.
So column's probably going to put it in a column.
Save it.
Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah.
Well, that's ugly.
It is ugly, right? But that's because the width, right? The height being 100 pixels. You have a set width on all these sub IDs, like turn red, turn blue. You have a fixed height. For height and stuff, it doesn't have to be pixels. It could be, I don't know if you've heard this, view height and view width. So you can set something to be 50% of your view width. So whatever like device you're using, it'll only take 50% of that space.
Is it like this? And I'm going to view.
You would put 50. Like,
not going to do public math. Never mind.
Yeah, you're good. It should be 50 view width.
50
so
view width.
50. Yeah, V8, VW. My bad. Yep.
There you go. It's a little prettier.
Right. It's only taking up 50% of it, which is pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
You can do that same thing with view height, and this is how you make your web page compatible with different devices. Just for future references. So you can do view width, view height. You can also do percentages. You can do max view width and view height. So in case someone's using like a big screen, you can make sure that it does not go past a certain like width. And whatnot. So there's different stuff like that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to like give you guys different options. And just like open up your minds to other things so you guys aren't too limited. Yeah. Anything else, Len, or is that all?
No, I was about to bail. So yeah.
Sweet. anybody else here have anything else they want to demonstrate that it maybe deviated away from the assignment, try something new?
I did something a little different.
Let's check it out, Joseph.
There was just one thing really. I made the corners round. I was just messing around on W3 schools and I found some cool stuff on there, so I just made the corners round.
How'd you do that?
Border radius.
So
I think I was muted.
so it was. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I was muted. Border radius
Okay.
is typically how you do it.
Yeah, it was. Where is it? Right here. Yeah, border radius. But I found it right on here. If you go to CSS and then advanced, it was right here, rounded corners. So I thought that was pretty cool. I'm still having a lot of trouble with trying to get this on the center screen.
You would. I don't know if I want to. Now, we'll talk one-on-one later on.
Okay.
But because there is another assignment kind of like this that you guys will get to do on your own. Yeah. So I think we'll stop there. Thank you guys for everyone that volunteered to demonstrate what they did. We're gonna go ahead and keep pushing forward. We have roughly an hour. I want to give you guys enough time to work on the assignment and as well as demonstrate. So we went over the background.html. Here is another example of JavaScript. So, like you guys know up to this point, JavaScript, it's it might look a little bit different right now because we're doing stuff like document.query selector, which is not something you're used to working with JavaScript, but you can still declare variables, right? So on top we have here let total equals 0. And then they went through the same motion. They're querying different selectors depending on their ID. And they're adding event listeners, right? Same thing right here, still the same thing where they're looking for the click. And they have separate functions here. Make 0, add 3, add 9, and subtract 2. You might think like, why such a random number? They're doing this, right? But it's a really bad calculator where they get to add 3 numbers, add 2, or subtracting. I'm sorry, add 9 and subtract 2. I'm sorry, man. English is my second language. But that's essentially what they're doing, right? They create the functions down here where they get the total, right? If you make it 0, they're obviously just going to grab the variable that they declared prior, make it back to 0, and then they're manipulating the text, right, of the HTML tag that they're grabbing, right? They're grabbing place to put results. That's the name of the ID of whatever tag they have, their selector, and they're manipulating directly the inner text that's within that tag by using the inner text method and then setting it to whatever total is, right? Pretty cool. And that's how they were able to manipulate the result. That was right here. Another function right here, they grab the total, right? Whatever total might be, and add 3. And then they manipulate the inner text again and return total, right? You guys are going to work through this bad calculator. I do believe there is a right here. Let's open this bad boy up. Open with live server. And exactly pretty much everything we just discussed. There should be able to press 3. It adds 3. Add 9. Subtract 2. And even goes into the negatives. I don't know if you want your calculator to do that. I guess that's why it's a bad calculator. Also, you can only add on by 3 is nice. That's not good. But yeah, so this is gonna be your bad calculator. And they essentially manipulate the result, right? If we look at this H2, this H2 has the inner text result colon and then space. And then close parentheses. After that, they have my kid's screaming in the background. I'm so sorry, I'm getting distracted. After that, they have a new element span. They call the ID place to put result. And that span holds a number, right? And as we see here in real time, it changes, right? Pretty cool. Are you guys aware you can use the console as well using the DOM tools? Let me show you how that can come in handy for debugging stuff, especially working with the DOM. So we have our bad calculator, we have our app. We should be able to do console.log total. Let me save it just in case. And then whenever I run that function, the console in my DOM will show me if it's working. Boom. Pretty cool, right? So this is how you essentially kind of debug, if your function, your JavaScript function is doing what it should be doing while working with the DOM. So take full advantage of that. It's the bottom part. Just go to the console, or you can even do it up here. So just grab it itself, right? If you go straight to elements, if it's like mine, it'll split up. But you can use the console up here, and there's other things you can check out too, which you'll learn more about as you progress through the immersive program. But yeah, if you guys want to debug your functions, your JavaScript functions, feel free to use the console in your DOM. All right. Your task is to convert this atrocious calculator into something like this, right? And before I release you guys to start working on it, I want to emphasize on something. One, rule of thumb, whenever you're working with your projects, if you're building anything, the most important part is to get your functionality set up, right? Now granted, it's not like you're not gonna have any HTML and CSS, right? But you need just enough so you can visualize what you're doing, and then you want to put all your focus into the functionality of your program. All right, there is no purpose on spending 15-20 minutes of the 30 minutes that is given to you trying to make it look pretty if it doesn't do what it should be doing, right? It's pretty much useless. So I do want to make sure I do say that, not that you guys are doing it, just for like future purposes. Everyone likes to make pretty things, whatever, they want to make it look nice. But it's no use if it doesn't do what it should be doing, right? It's not even a program. So that, and then another one, the comments I heard, and something just talking to some of you guys. You guys are gonna have these templates kind of already pre-built for you. All right. Refrain from copying and pasting. Not that copying and pasting is bad, right? I do it these days, right? But when you first start off, it's a bad habit, right? If you guys want to think back to, in middle school and high school, when you guys are writing down your notes while you're in the lecture, right? Or you're studying, or you're reading a book, right? You're studying whatever it may be. You have your notepads aside, and you're writing down important notes. Just the act itself of writing it down manually is helping you solidify that information and setting the foundation for you guys to remember it a lot better. So if you guys are just, coming here and then copy and pasting all this and then just changing some words here and there, it's not going to do you any good, especially because, it's already getting to you. We kind of just threw you into the deep end when it comes to the JavaScript different methods. So do yourself a service and type it out manually, kind of get used to it and try to remember what methods you're actually using and what it's doing. It'll do you wonders in the future. If not, when you're actually building your own program, no one's gonna have some template for you. You know, when you're doing your own projects yourself, and you guys do your solo projects and your group projects, there ain't no template, there ain't no README. Like nobody telling you like how to pre-built this with these methods already. No, it's you, man. You decide what route you want to take. So get used to it, do not copy and paste and try to, put in the work. Sound good? Awesome. I'm gonna give you guys another 30 minutes to do this and bounce around. And that should give us enough time to come back and present and then call it for the day. Take some time to actually step away from the computer and use the restroom if you have to. All right. I doubt that any of you actually finished. And if you did, it probably doesn't look pretty. But if anyone wants to showcase what they have, we'll take one demonstration day, and then we're gonna call it for the rest of the night. And tomorrow, when we come back, if anyone worked on it during the night or tomorrow during the day, then you guys are more than welcome to show. But anyone want to demonstrate what they have so far? Nobody. It's okay. Anyone want to talk about anything that's confusing at all? Like, maybe you're stuck. You want to talk about something as a group, like, how to go about something, or, maybe you want a different way of thinking. No?
I guess something for the group. Did anyone like make a good, I guess like variable that they use and kind of had a functionality? Because I was like messing with stuff, but unfortunately, like none of my buttons clicked anymore because I know that the examples that are given, I changed all the buttons so they all did something different then. And I know Roger said just do a variable for selected number, pretty much for every number, and like pretty much like another variable for like each sign or whatever. But I don't know if anyone got to that point or made a variable for that in their JavaScript program.
No. Think
I
about
guess
a
not. It's okay.
calculator.
Me neither.
When you type in a calculator and you press the buttons, what's happening? If you press 100, what happens?
It displays on the screen.
Displays on the screen, right? So maybe break it off into parts like that. Like every time you press a button, it adds it to like your screen, like a screen variable or display variable, and then almost like a string version. And every time you press the button, the string version of that number gets added to the display, right? Every time you press it. And then let's say you press 1, it adds it to the string. You press 0, adds it to the string. You press 0 again, it adds it to the screen. But now you press the plus sign. Well, what typically happens? After you press the plus sign, something that, any number that comes afterwards gets added into it, correct? So maybe, right off the bat, if no number is selected or whatever, if so-and-so is equal false or true, if this is equal 0, right? You can use regular JavaScript code. You can code it there, right? Check, hey, is this variable 0? Is plus or minus multiplication or division added, selected or something? Like there's different ways of going about this. Then do this. If not, do this, right?
Yeah, so I have a little bit I think I can show. I got a little carried away with the CSS trying to put it, like you said, I wasn't focusing on the functionality
Okay,
enough,
yeah.
so I ran out
Let's see
of
what you got
time.
so far.
Yeah. All right, let me share the screen. Hmm. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
All right, so oh, yeah, shit. So this is what the calculator looks like. Let me refresh it. So what I did was, oh, let me do a side by side. Oh man, when that happens. So I put like the whole thing into a container, and then I have a div with a span that the results are supposed to be in, and then I separated everything into more divs to align them. So I have I just call this calculator section class, and that section is going to contain the numbers as well as the symbols. So I created an unordered list and with a class of numbers, and then each list item I have a class of number, and then each item also has a class for the number that this item represents, and an inner HTML inner text of the number that's represented here in these boxes. And then, so that's one list of numbers, and then the other list is for the, I call that class of calculations. So that has all the plus, minus, multiply, divide, and equal over there. And then I just also had the clear, I didn't know where to put that yet. So I spend most of my time on is just CSSing stuff, which I just took too long for that. I think you mostly want to see what the JavaScript is looking like.
Yes, I would like to. I mean, it's okay. I enjoyed watching the other stuff too. I encourage everything.
Yeah,
But yeah, I am interested in the
yeah.
JavaScript.
So let me remove that outline from it. It's a little weird. So in the JavaScript, I created a const numbers. So this const numbers, I did the document query selector all numbers. So the query selector all selects all items of that particular selector that you're using. We're using the class selector. So what this does, it selects every uh, node that has the object, the class that's number. So you see all the numbers have a class number. So what this is going to do, query selector all is going to create a node, a list node, which is like an array that's going to contain all the numbers in there. So why I did this was I wanted an array with all the numbers. So as I have numbers right here, and then what I did with that numbers right here, I did a for each. So what the for each does is iterate over the list object. So let me print it out just to show you what's going on there. So numbers. So if I go here, so this is not this one right here. You see it created an object node list, and it consists of 10 items. And you see right here it's a list from 0 to 9, which is 10. And you see I have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, and goes to 0. So that's what this does right here. So when you do a query selector all, it's gonna create a node list. And the reason why I did that is because when I iterate over that numbers node list array, I can assign each number in the node list an event listener instead of adding an event listener to each individual class. You can just do it in a for loop, a for each loop. So I added the event listener, the click event, and then that got a function. And then I got the event. This is like outside of the scope right now. I've just been doing it for a while. So what I then did was so what this is, so once I look at the click event let me go here. So you see I have, like, when I hover over a number, you see the hand comes up. That's like CSS. So when I have in the number class, I added a width, so that's like each individual button has a width of 100, and then I created a border 1 pixel black, so that's why you see that border around here right there. And the text align center aligns every number inside the middle of the box. And then the padding, that's the internal spacing inside of it. And then the margin, that's the spacing around. And so that's for the number. So the number is the individual list item right here. So you see the list items, the LIs, there's our numbers. And these are inside a container that's called numbers with a S. And if you look at numbers, I removed the list style. So if I cancel out that, you'll see the dots come back again because it's a list. So I just remove that and then it disappears.
All right, Mikhail.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
It's
pause
going
you.
yeah.
Not because I don't want to hear
Going a
it,
little
but 'cause
too much.
we have
Yeah,
3 minutes left. That's all.
Yeah, so what I was able to do is that I could put, when I type in the numbers, you see them right there.
Yes.
So based on that, I created like a string, and then I had another function. So this right here is the output. That's right here, that div
Yep.
output. And then I just had a function on each click. I'm gonna send it to that string and put the inner text. I created that string. And I also had the calculations. I also did put that into a node list as well. As you can see right here, the symbols. So each of them you see, so all the symbols. So what I was gonna do if I had more time is I'm going to append each button press to a string. So you're gonna see, like, every time you click a button, it's just gonna add to that string until you press an actual number. And then so you see right here, yeah. So I did it right here.
Yes.
When you're pressing the button, you just keep on adding the string, and you only stop adding to that string when you see when you press one of the symbols. So right now, if I do 1, oh yeah, because
Yep. Yeah, he
things
has to
didn't
clear
get
it.
refreshed.
So
Yeah.
that's pretty much what I was trying to explain to you guys. Think about how the calculator works, right? Like, don't overthink it. Combine the string, and then once you're actually ready to do something with it, then you can change the function of what you're going to do. Everything that Michaela has there from line 20 and before, that's pretty much everything that you guys normally did, but he kind of like automated it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so
Instead
you
of
can see over here, you see the numbers every time you're just adding to the string, and it'll just keep adding until you press one of the symbols that does the calculation. So I didn't have another function that does the calculation on whatever whatever number that you have in there.
Yes, thank you, Mikhail.
Oh,
All right, I have like 1 minute now. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I don't want to take anybody's time, all right, because I know we all have life. So take, tonight, tomorrow morning, afternoon, whatever you want. Work on it as you guys can, and then tomorrow before class starts, we will do a small demonstration, and we'll continue moving forward. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed today's lesson. And let me know if you guys need anything from me. I'll stay here another minute or two if anyone has any questions. But besides that, you guys have yourself a good night.